If there is one man who is to be blamed for Jesus Christ's crucifixion, it's the governor of Judea, Pontius Pilate. He himself knew Jesus was innocent and that he had God with him. But despite this, he did little to handle pressure from the religious authorities and allowed Jesus Christ to be crucified. If he had resisted and acted as a governor, ensuring law and order, Jesus would have been never crucified. This made him the central person to be held responsible for Jesus' crucifixion. Even though he washed his hands symbolically to show he was not involved, whatever happened was under his watch, and his bitter and painful end settled all scores. However, what happened to Pontius Pilate after he allowed Jesus' crucifixion? Welcome to a new episode of Uncovering Untold Stories, a channel where we talk about the secret and hidden historical stories, events, and incidents of the past that find their roots in either religious or history books. It's a place where you will hear the most unorthodox and hard-to-believe stories that have been forgotten but are part of history, shaping our lives to this day. In this episode, we will tell you about the better and painful end of Pontius Pilate, which only a few people know about. Let's get started. Little is known about Pontius Pilate's background and how he rose to become the governor of Judea. However, it's reported that he was a Roman equestrian from the Samnite clan of Ponti and held various military and administrative roles that paved the way for his appointment as the fifth governor of Judea under Emperor Tiberius. He served from around 26 to 36 CE. This period was marked by significant political and social unrest in the region, adding to the challenges of his role. As governor, Pilate's duties were extensive and demanding. He was responsible for upholding law and order, overseeing tax collection, and ensuring the administration of justice. These responsibilities were particularly daunting given the volatile atmosphere in Judea, where Roman rule was met with resistance from the local Jewish population. Pilate's governorship was marred by frequent controversy and conflict with the Jewish community. One such incident involved Pilate's decision to introduce Roman military standards, adorned with the emperor's likeness, into Jerusalem, a move deemed sacrilegious by Jewish religious standards. The ensuing protests were vehement, forcing Pilate to eventually relent and remove the offensive standards to appease the populace. And this set the stage for Jesus' crucifixion. The Jewish authorities had known that they could pressure Pilate and get him to do whatever they liked. Further exacerbating tensions, Pilate displayed golden shields inscribed with the emperor's name in Herod's palace, seen as yet another affront to Jewish religious sensibilities. The outcry was so intense that Emperor Tiberius had to intervene directly, instructing Pilate to remove the shields to quell the escalating unrest. However, the biggest of the blunders done by Pilate was his role in Jesus' crucifixion. Jesus Christ's presence in Judea during his time posed profound challenges to established authorities and stirred messianic expectations among the Jewish populace. He directly confronted the Pharisees and Sadducees, criticizing what he saw as their hypocrisy and advocating for a more personal and compassionate interpretation of Jewish law. This alternative perspective threatened the traditional religious hierarchy, challenging their authority and the status quo they maintained. Under Roman occupation, many Jews eagerly awaited a messianic figure who would deliver them from foreign rule and restore Israel's sovereignty. Jesus' increasing popularity and his claims to be the Messiah or the Son of God fueled messianic hopes among some, which presented a potential political challenge. These beliefs had the potential to incite Roman intervention, exacerbating the already tense regional atmosphere and risking instability. The Roman governance of Judea was widely resented, prompting widespread desires for independence. Jesus' teachings about the imminent kingdom of God, coupled with symbolic gestures like overturning tables in the temple, symbolized resistance against both Roman authority and the Jewish elite who collaborated with the occupiers. This message resonated strongly with those disillusioned by foreign rule and hungry for change, further complicating Jesus' relationship with the ruling powers. The Sanhedrin, the Jewish religious council, viewed Jesus as a heretic and a threat to their religious authority. Despite hesitations due to his popularity, they actively sought opportunities to arrest him, viewing his teachings as subversive to their religious order. Therefore, a plan was made to capture Jesus. However, it was not possible without getting help from someone closer to Jesus. Judas Iscariot, one of Jesus' disciples, played a role in his capture by betraying him to the authorities for 30 pieces of silver. This betrayal allowed the authorities to arrest Jesus discreetly, away from public view and potential resistance. Armed with information from Judas, Jewish authorities dispatched temple guards and Roman soldiers to apprehend Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he was praying. This joint effort between Jewish and Roman forces underscored the seriousness with which they regarded Jesus' potential to disrupt public order and stability. Jesus of Nazareth was apprehended by Jewish authorities who brought him before Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea. They accused Jesus of claiming kingship, a charge they believed challenged Roman authority and warranted a death sentence. But this charge was not true. Pilate, as depicted in the gospel narratives, questioned Jesus about the accusations. According to John chapter 18, verses 33 to 38, Pilate directly asked Jesus if he was the king of the Jews. Jesus responded with a statement suggesting his kingship was of a spiritual nature, not a political threat to Rome, saying, "My kingdom is not of this world." Caught in a profound political and moral dilemma, Pilate initially found no grounds to sentence Jesus to death. Luke chapter 23, verse 4 records Pilate stating, "I find no guilt in this man," revealing his reluctance to condemn Jesus. To evade responsibility, Pilate attempted to defer the decision to Herod Antipas, who was also in Jerusalem at the time. However, Herod, after questioning Jesus and finding no grounds for accusation, sent him back to Pilate, dressed in a mocking robe. As tensions mounted, Pilate sought to leverage a Passover custom allowing the release of a prisoner. He presented the crowd with a choice between Jesus and Barabbas, a notorious criminal and insurrectionist, as said in Matthew chapter 27, verses 15 to 26, and Mark chapter 15, verses 6 to 15. Pilate wanted the people to choose Jesus' release. In that way, Jesus would have been released by the will of the people, and there was nothing Jewish authorities could do. However, encouraged by the chief priests and elders, the crowd demanded the release of Barabbas and the crucifixion of Jesus. This changed everything. Under pressure from both the crowd and Jewish leaders threatening to report him to Caesar, Pilate reluctantly yielded to their demands. In Matthew chapter 27, verses 24 to 26, he publicly washed his hands, symbolically absolving himself of responsibility, stating, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." In return, the crowd answered, "His blood be on us and on our children." Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos about little heard and untold real historical stories. Let's continue now. Despite Pilate's moral reservations and attempts to distance himself from the decision, he ultimately ordered the crucifixion of Jesus, fulfilling the crowd's wishes. Following Pilate's decision, Jesus endured harsh treatment at the hands of Roman soldiers. He was subjected to scourging, a brutal punishment involving a whip with multiple lashes embedded with sharp fragments designed to inflict excruciating pain and cause severe bleeding. The soldiers, mocking Jesus as King of the Jews, dressed him in a purple robe and placed a crown of thorns on his head, as said in John chapter 19, verses 2 and 3. This mockery not only inflicted physical suffering, but also aimed to deride Jesus' proclaimed identity. The crucifixion itself was a method of execution reserved for the gravest offenses under Roman law. According to the Gospels, Jesus was compelled to carry his own cross to Golgotha, the place of execution. There, he was nailed to the cross and left to die, a process intended to cause prolonged agony and public humiliation. Above his head, Pilate ordered an inscription written in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek, reading, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." This inscription affirmed the charge for which Jesus was condemned and acknowledged his claim to kingship, but in a derisive manner. Following the crucifixion of Jesus, Pontius Pilate continued to rule over Judea, but his authority was increasingly challenged during growing unrest. Pilate's governorship was fraught with tensions, particularly with the Jewish population, exacerbated by his authoritarian methods in maintaining Roman control. Despite personally finding no fault in Jesus, his decision to authorize the crucifixion strained relations with a selected few local Jewish leaders and the populace. As governor, Pilate confronted numerous challenges, including uprisings and protests against Roman taxes and religious practices deemed offensive by the Jews. That was the start of his decline. His governance style, which often relied on force to suppress dissent, only deepened animosity and resistance among the people. Around 36 CE, Pilate's administration faced a critical moment when he ordered a forceful crackdown on a Samaritan religious gathering at Mount Gerizim. This attempt to quell perceived unrest backfired, resulting in violence and further heightening tensions throughout the region. He mistakenly suppressed a gathering, suspecting them of rebellion. This misstep drew the attention of Lucius Vitellius, his superior and the governor of Syria, who viewed it as evidence of Pilate's ineffective leadership. Consequently, Vitellius sent Pilate to Rome to face serious charges, including accusations of denying Roman citizens fair trials, a severe offense in Roman law. Unfortunately for Pilate, upon his arrival in Italy, Emperor Tiberius had already passed away, leaving little historical record of his life thereafter. It is generally believed that he was relieved of his duties as governor shortly thereafter, marking the conclusion of his troubled tenure in Judea. Some accounts suggest that Pilate faced political repercussions or even punishment upon his return to the imperial capital, although these assertions lack definitive historical substantiation. Some traditions propose that Pilate experienced exile, disgrace, or even took his own life in the aftermath of his involvement in Jesus' crucifixion. These interpretations often blend historical events with theological reflections and cultural legends, reflecting broader themes of accountability and moral consequence. In several ancient texts about Pilate, his fate after Jesus' crucifixion varies dramatically. Some portrayals depict him in a positive light, while others paint him as intensely evil. For instance, a Syriac version from the 5th century claims Pilate converted to Christianity after blaming the Jews for Jesus' death before Emperor Tiberius. Facing execution, Pilate's prayer leads to his conversion, marking him as a Christian martyr. Similarly, in the Greek Paradosis Pilate, Pilate, despite having executed Jesus, is shown as a follower of Christ at his own arrest and subsequent beheading, blessed by a voice from heaven promising his reunion with Jesus at the second coming. Contrasting narratives like the Evangelium Gamalielis and the Martyrium Pilati, possibly from medieval origins, depict Pilate as a devoted Christian martyr. These texts recount his crucifixion twice, once by the Jews and again by Tiberius, alongside his wife and children, underscoring his steadfast faith. Adding to the mix, Eusebius and other Western apocryphal traditions like the Cura Sanitatis Tiberi and the Vindicta Salvatoris detail Pilate's tragic end. In these accounts, Pilate encounters Emperor Tiberius after being healed by an image of Jesus brought by Saint Veronica. Despite confirming Jesus' miracles, Pilate faces exile and ultimately commits suicide. A similar fate is described in the Mors Pilati, where Pilate's body, plagued by supernatural phenomena, is repeatedly cast out of rivers until it finds an eerie resting place in a Swiss lake, haunted by demonic visitations. It's also reported that when Emperor Tiberius Caesar fell seriously ill, he heard tales of Jesus, a renowned healer from Jerusalem. Unaware that Jesus had been crucified by the Jews and Pilate, Tiberius dispatched his emissary Volusianus to bring this miraculous physician to him. Volusianus quickly relayed the emperor's request to Pilate, who, fully aware of the consequences, reluctantly recounted Jesus' fate but was moved by Veronica's testimony of Jesus' innocence and extraordinary abilities. Veronica, who had encountered Jesus and preserved his image on cloth, assured Volusianus that devoutly gazing upon this image could restore Tiberius's health through faith, not material means. Accompanied by Veronica, Volusianus journeyed to Rome with the sacred image, where Tiberius learned of Jesus' unjust death. In a solemn gesture, the emperor had the path adorned with silk and eagerly received the image. Upon beholding it, Tiberius miraculously regained his health, deeply affected by the sacred aura it conveyed. Later, Pilate was summoned to Rome by Caesar, bringing with him Jesus' tunic. When Pilate appeared wearing it, Tiberius unexpectedly greeted him with kindness and warmth, a sharp contrast to his earlier anger. However, upon removing the tunic and unaware of its connection to Jesus, Tiberius reverted to his harsh demeanor. Troubled by his own conflicting reactions, Tiberius ordered Pilate imprisoned pending a council's deliberation. It's reported that Pilate was ultimately condemned to a dishonorable death, and he chose to end his life. Upon hearing of Pilate's suicide, Tiberius remarked on the shameful nature of his death, leading to Pilate's body being thrown into the Tiber River. Yet, the malevolent spirits within Pilate's body caused disturbances, prompting the Romans to relocate and bury him in different places to escape the supernatural turmoil associated with his remains. The last significant historical mention of Pilate appears in the writings of Tacitus, the Roman historian of Nero's era. Tacitus documented Nero's scapegoating of Christians for the destructive fire in Rome in 64 CE, noting that Christus, the founder of Christianity, met his end under Pontius Pilate. This observation underscores early Roman awareness of Jesus' crucifixion during Pilate's governance and its pivotal role in the emergence of Christianity. At the First Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, convened by Emperor Constantine I, the Nicene Creed was established as a unifying statement of Christian faith. Its inclusion of the phrase "suffered under Pontius Pilate" reaffirmed the historical reality of Jesus' crucifixion under Roman authority. This affirmation underscored the Creed's recognition of crucial events in Christian belief and reinforced Pilate's enduring impact on early Christian theology and historical memory. Pontius Pilate holds a significant role in Christian theology primarily due to his involvement in the trial and crucifixion of Jesus Christ. According to the Gospel accounts, Pilate, as the Roman governor of Judea, presided over Jesus' trial and ultimately sentenced him to crucifixion, despite finding no legal basis for doing so. This action is central to Christian belief as it fulfills the prophecy of Jesus' sacrificial death for the redemption of humanity's sins. In Jewish tradition, Pontius Pilate is remembered through a lens of governance marked by insensitivity and oppression towards Jewish customs and beliefs. As the Roman governor of Judea, Pilate's tenure was characterized by strained relations with the Jewish population who viewed Roman rule as intrusive and dismissive of their religious sensitivities. In Jewish memory, Pilate is portrayed as a figure embodying tyranny and cultural insensitivity, symbolizing the broader struggle for Jewish identity and autonomy under Roman occupation. The perception of Pilate as an oppressor is reinforced by historical events, including the eventual Jewish revolt against Rome in 66 CE, which resulted in the destruction of the Second Temple and intensified animosity between Jews and Romans. What do you think? Was Pontius Pilate directly involved in Jesus' crucifixion? Isn't it true that he was supposed to handle pressure and protect Jesus, but he chose to give up? In the comment section right below, share your thoughts on the tragic end of others involved in Jesus' crucifixion. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring videos on stories that might sound controversial, mysterious, and shocking, but are real and have roots in religious and history books. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.